First King, chapter 12, 6 to 15. I'll read it for you. The king Rehoboam took counsel with the old man who had stood before Solomon his father while he was yet alive, saying, "How do you advise me to answer these people?" And they said to him, "If you will be a servant to these people today and serve them and speak good word to them when you answer them, then they will be your servant forever." But he abandoned the counsel that the old man gave him and took counsel with a young man who had grown up with him and stood before him. And he said to them, "What do you advise that we answer these people who have said to me, 'Lighten the yoke that your father put on us'?" And the young man who had grown up with him said to him, "Thus shall you speak to these people who said to you, 'Your father made our yoke heavy, but you lighten it for us.' Thus shall you say to them, 'My little finger is thicker than my father's thighs. And now, whereas my father laid on your heavy yoke, I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with the whips, but I will discipline you with the scorpions." So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam the third day, as the king said, "Come to me again the third day." And the king answered the people harshly, forsaking the counsel that the old man had given him. He spoke to them according to the counsel of the young man, saying, "My father made your yoke heavy, but I will add to your yoke. My father disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with the scorpions." So the king did not listen to the people, for it was turn of affairs brought about by the Lord, that he might fulfill his word, which the Lord spoke by Ahijah the Shilonite to the Jeroboam the son of Nebat. This is the word of God to the people of God. Thanks be to God. Anybody remember the title of the last Sunday sermon? Absalom, Absalom. You remember that, right? And I told you why I put the name twice, Absalom and Absalom, because something missing, something wanting, that the born as the great King David, Absalom, couldn't you end up differently? Was your life, all the decision made, was that the best, right? That feeling, right? That the wanting feeling that I brought the title Absalom, Absalom. And today, we're going to talk about, again, the name twice, Rehoboam, Rehoboam. You know who Rehoboam is, right? The king of the son of King Solomon. By the way, I'm just to remind you one more time where we are now. We already finished the first 5 books of Old Testament: Torah, Law, Moses, Pentateuch, and then now we start from Joshua, the second part of Old Testament history part, and from Joshua we go to Judges and Samuel, and now we're the Kings. You know, the original Hebrew scroll, First and Samuel was one scroll, but we made it 2 books. And Kings also, it was one scroll, but we made the first King and second Kings. And you know the main thing about Samuel, you remember? About Prophet Samuel, first King Saul, and second King David. That's about Samuel. Now the Kings, about from David's son Solomon, and all the kings after him. And you know the history, the ancient Israel, it was a united kingdom from the first King Saul, only 3 generations. Saul, and not his son, but David became a king as the second son of Israel, and Solomon. These 3 kings, they reigned the whole country of Israel, the confederation of 12 tribes. But 4th generation after Solomon's king Rehoboam, the kingdom was divided into 2, to the northern Israel and southern Judah. And the 4th king of Israel, the Rehoboam, son of Solomon, he became a king of only southern Judah, which is only 2 tribes of 12. And Jeroboam, he became the northern Israel king. And from this, you know, all the book of Kings, if you read it through, you know, the story is a certain year of the northern king, certain king, the southern Judah, this king became a king, and then he reigned certain years. He lived according to the will of God, or he rebellious God, and then the northern king, and they go back and forth, that 19 kings in northern Israel and 20 kings in southern Judah. We see their 2 countries' history. That's the content of Book of Kings. Okay? But the beginning, the origin of two kingdoms, again, originally it was a united kingdom, but kingdom was divided at the generation, the time of Rehoboam, right? And the Rehoboam, story says that, the David was the greatest king, but Solomon was the richest king and the wisest king. What a king, right, in the world. But after Solomon died, the leaders of the people came to Rehoboam asking the lighten father's yoke, tax, and all the things that he imposed him. Because though Solomon was great, he had a lot of construction projects, the Jerusalem temple, King's temple. There are a lot of work in throughout the country. So there are a lot of tax and a lot of heavy burden and yoke to the people. So people now ask next king, Solomon's son, Rehoboam, please lighten them. And there kinds of some, the deja vu here, the cliche. Absalom heard two different opinions, counsel from Ahithophel and the Hushai, and he listened the wrong opinion. Same thing, Rehoboam, that his father's servant, the elders of the country, Solomon, his father's servant, they gave a good counsel. Listen to people. If you lighten their yoke and tax and burden, they will serve you. Your kingdom will last forever. But he listened the counsel of a young man who have grown up with him, which you can imagine if he was a prince of the King Solomon or his friends, all those spoiled, rich family kids, the sons of the nobles, right? Who never went through the suffering in their life, who don't know how the other, who cannot take compassion on others' suffering, who cannot understand others, who cannot see the things clearly because they are so self-centered. And the guys, we say, the born with the gold spoons. Those young people, their wrong, stupid counsel. So their famous thing, you heard that, right? My little finger. This is what, the Rehoboam told the people, my little finger, thicker than my father's thighs, I will treat you harshly. I have my theme song. Whenever I make some stupid mistake, or whenever I see other people make the mistake, I sing a song. Dum 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 dum. This is my theme song. I sing often like I'm driving. Dum dum dum. Why I made the mistake? The first MacBook laptop that I had like 15 years, 20 years ago, it had like a chess game in the computer. And have you ever played the chess with the computer? And in the MacBook chess game, when I make the stupid move, computer say that you play like monkey. And if I make one more mistake, the laptop says, you are a monkey. So this is what I do with Justin these days. We play chess. One of us make the stupid move like, you play like monkey. You are a monkey. Rehoboam was monkey. He was a fool, right? So dumb that all the richness, great things about his grandfather David and his father Solomon, he just need to maintain them, and he made this stupid decision. You know what happened after that? The 5th year of the king Rehoboam. 5th year of the king Rehoboam. The Egyptian king Shishak came over. The Solomon stored all the treasures, richness in the world in his temple. How much, his neighbor country would be greedy for them, right? And they could not take them while they were strong country, all 12 tribes. Now 12 tribes become two tribes, just 1/10 size, very small country with a lot of Solomon's richness. Egyptian king Shishak came over. He robbed everything, all the treasure in Jerusalem. Because of that, Indiana Jones and a lot of Hollywood movie, they imagine somewhere in Egypt underground, the vast amount of the gold and treasure, the Solomons, that Shishak king took it somewhere in the Egyptian country. You watched a lot of Hollywood movie like that, right? Looking for lost treasure of Solomon, that Shishak took all of them, and all the golden shield that Solomon made, now the Rehoboam had to replace them with the bronze shield. What a shame. All the great things of the country were taken by this stupid king Rehoboam. Country divided into two, lost the glory, all went wrong, dum 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 dum, like a monkey, right? But that's not just the history. It's happening here and there in the world. He's not the only one. You have heard a lot of, the next generation emperor or the kings who could not, pass down the good legacy of the parents who made a lot of wrong decisions. You heard about a lot of stupid next to leaders, right? This is just history here and there, but this is the Bible. Bible is not about human beings, not about our story. It's about God. So we need to hear again, what is God doing here? And surprisingly, it says God caused it. You heard about that? So the king Rehoboam did not listen to the people, the leaders of the people. He gave the wrong answer. Why? Because Rehoboam was a monkey or dumb? No, because God made him to do it. But it was a turn of the affairs brought about by the Lord. The Lord made Rehoboam not listen to the good counsel. So Lord caused this. So actually, it's not fair. It's not fair that I blame him like a dumb, and then monkey, because that's not what he did. It's what God did. And we should ask a question: why did God do that? Why did God let Rehoboam listen to the wrong counsel and then he caused all the trouble? Why did God do that? You know the answer? Because sins of his father Solomon. Solomon was a great king, but at the end of his life, he worshipped idols. He was not walking on the way of the David. So, 1 King chapter 11, you see that? Therefore, the Lord said to Solomon, since you are doing this and that, you have not kept my covenant and my statute that I command you, you worship the idols, all these things, because of you, what you have done, I will surely tear the kingdom from you and give it to your servant. So give your kingdom to your servant Jeroboam, it was decided before Rehoboam during his father Solomon's reign by God. So it's not Rehoboam's fault. And we should ask this question. If Solomon was the one who worshipped the idols, following his all foreign wives, and he did not obey God, why kingdom was not divided during Solomon's reign? He had to bear his consequence, right? He did wrong, Solomon did wrong, but God did not let the Solomon bear the consequence. God let the Solomon's son bear the consequence. Why? Because God wanted Solomon bear the David's blessing. Look at this. For I will surely tear the kingdom from you and will give it to your servant, but I will not do this thing to you. Yet, for the sake of David your father, I will not do it in your days, but I will tear it out the hands of your son. So Solomon did wrong, but there was no problem in his life because of blessing he received from his father. Rehoboam, we don't know how stupid he was, but regardless of who he was, he received this big trouble because of what his father did. What does it tell us? Your life is not yours alone. That's what Bible says, right? It passes on to you. Something your parents did, something your ancestor did. It's decided and it came down to you. So maybe now you're comforted, all the decision I made, the wrong decision I made in my life. Not my fault. It's because of my ancestors, my game addiction gene, or somebody alcoholic, or somebody ruined their life making all wrong decisions. Not my fault. God only decide because of what my parents did. Maybe you can think about it. And the scary thing is, what you do will pass on to your children. It's exactly what happened. What Solomon did, passed on to Rehoboam. What David did, passed on to Solomon. Do you think it's not fair? Whether it's fair or not, this is the fact. Not only Christian philosophy, you know that, right? Whole world, every civilization, every philosophist, they talk about this thing, what? Karma, causality, cause and effect. What you do, you will bear the consequence. And people found out not only what you do in your life, maybe what you have done in your previous life, now you are bearing that burden now in this life. That's the karma theory, right? And what your ancestor did, that you will bear. And what you do, your children will bear. Whole world, every culture, every philosophist, they observed, they found it out. That's the way the world is. Because it's going on that way, right? Practically we can think about, not just the fatalism, it's about destiny, but practically, how many wives Solomon had? He had 300 wives and 700 concubines. How many children? Bible never said that. How many children would Solomon have had? 1,000 wives, that means 2,000 children or 5,000 children. Among the 5,000 children, Solomon picked up the one son, Rehoboam, as king. And he gave all his wealth, all the wealth in the world, to this his one son, Rehoboam. What didn't he give to Rehoboam? I mean, with the 3,000 sons, the wisest king in the world, Solomon. Do you think he had time to talk with his first son, Rehoboam, talk about life, talk about wisdom, talk about how to live? No. He had too many wives. He was too great. He didn't have time to talk about life or teach the God to his son Rehoboam. So Solomon gave the great wealth to his son Rehoboam, but he did not give the wisdom how to maintain those wealth to his son Rehoboam. What are you trying to give to your children? You try to give them good education and let them go to good college so that their life is stable and successful? Is that what you want to pass on your children? Or you want to teach them the sports and let them enjoy their life through the sports game? Is that the gift you want to give to your children? Or you want to give them God, the faith, the blessing from God you received, you want to pass on to your children? What do you want to give? Solomon failed to give the blessing he received from his father to his son Rehoboam, while he gave all the wealth in this world. That was his failure. Right? Those things happen here and there in our life. I mean, our life is all like the consequence a lot of times. You know, I was born in Buddhist family. I talked with you many times. But I'm first generation Christian. I'm first generation pastor. And I do my best to give my blessing, the knowing God. I try to give it to my blessing to my children. You know, honestly, maybe over confidence, but I'm not worried about my children. They already received the blessing from me. I'm a pastor. They already received the blessing of the pastor's kids. I think they will never, I shouldn't say that, but anyway, they will stay with God the rest of their life because I brainwashed them since they were young. Every corner, every opportunity, you know, your life, you know, the faith, blessing, curse, who's God is. I instilled their things, the knowledge of God in their brain. Even if maybe some moment in their life they lose their faith, they will come back to God because all the things that I put it in their mind. But I'm worrying about my grandchildren. My children will receive a blessing from me because of what I have done. But if they just received my blessing, if they fail to teach those blessings to their children, then my grandchildren, there's no guarantee they're blessed. Again, my dream, you know that, right? 10 generations passes God. I have that dream, right? What if I teach my children, maybe just they successfully teach their children, my grandchildren in faith? What if the third generation, fifth generation, some of the generation made a mistake? They're rebellious. They don't believe in God. What if this hope is gone? That's my concern. Whether you believe it or not, I'm thinking that far away. Everything I talk to my children right now, I'm not talking to them. I'm talking for the generation to come. You know, one of my hope, all the YouTube sermon, it's kept. So my third generation, fifth generation descendant who might lose their faith, they will find the YouTube video of their fifth generation grandfather, Pastor Justin's sermon. Maybe they might come back to God. I'm writing a book. For what? I'm preparing next generations for them to live according to the will of God. Is that the blessing you want to pass on your children, live on with God? You know, there are two kings actually. Rehoboam is not the worst case. There's two kings, which is a theme, the characters, two key characters passed down through all the book of Kings. You know, the 19 kings of northern Israel, they did 20 kings in southern Judah, and then every different king come every generation, but two kings' name repeatedly reported again. Do you know who they are? Just one of them, founder of the northern Israel, Jeroboam. His name you can see again and again, but unfortunately, very negatively. You can see that, right? He caused sin, and not only he sinned, he made the whole country sin as a king. Right? You know, the first King chapter 14, 16. He will give Israel up because of the sin of Jeroboam. God will give Israel because of the sin of Jeroboam, which he sinned, made Israel to sin. This is why actually we should pray hard for our president, our leaders. One leader, their policy, whole country can sin because of him. Because of Jeroboam, one wrong king, the whole Israel had to sin. And the worst part, not only that generation, every next generation, you will see all different names for 19 names of history of kings of northern kingdom of Israel, but you will see Jeroboam name again and again with everybody. Baasha did what was evil, the sight of the Lord, he is a king, walked in the way of Jeroboam in his sin, which he made Israel to sin. Zimri's sin, walking in the way of Jeroboam, and then for his sin that he committed, then making Israel sin. The Omri, the Ahab, every evil king of Israel. Why? Because this negative, this wrong, simple legacy passed down to them through one person, Jeroboam. Do you think this is unique? No, this is everywhere in our history, right? All the sufferings, all the problems we have today, it's not ours. You know, the racism, gun violence, poverty, oppression, slavery. Our ancestors did, right? And throughout the generation, they made it bigger and bigger. As I think all of you parents are scared these days, right? Gun violence was like a far away in the past. Like 10 years ago, it was Virginia, it was Alabama, it was somewhere far away. But now we're scared because it's coming closer to us. Every day we hear in our neighborhood. Maybe our children hopefully might be okay, but our grandchildren and grandchildren, do you think will they be safe from this violence coming closer to them? I mean, we made a lot of effort. We try to fix this problem, gun violence, racism, slavery. A lot of effort we make it. But what does history tell us? All what we have done, making things worse. The new problem. We just pass down sin more and more, and with our own effort, this world is not getting better. If you throw the rock on the lake, the waves spread out, expanded. That's like a sin is expanded generation to generation. What our grandparents did, what our great-grandparents did, passed down to our grandparents, to our parents, and to us. And we're passing down to our children. Are we really giving the better world to our children? Do you really think so? Or are you scared imagining the world that your descendant will live? Jeroboam's sin passed down through generations. Sorry about all this dark history, but there's hope, right? Who are the next person? I told you, two key persons' names come again and again throughout this history. You can guess what's the second person. King David, right? Northern Israel, because of the first king of Northern Israel, Jeroboam's sin, people had to bear that sin again and again. Same thing, the blessing of David passed down. There was a king. It's not like a southern Judah king always better than northern Israel. There was a time, many times, that southern Judah's king was as bad as evil as northern Israel king. Look at the example, the 2 King chapter 8:18. The Jehoram, the southern kingdom, southern Judah king, he walked in the way of the king of Israel. Even if he was a southern Judah king, he walked away on the northern king Israel, as the house of Ahab had done. The daughter of Ahab was his wife. But yet, Lord was not willing to destroy Judah for the sake of David, his servant. And you will see this comment again and again. Even there was a time that King Abijah and many kings of Judah, whenever they did wrong, for the sake of David, God did not destroy them. God helped them. God supported them. One man's good legacy passed down through generation, as the one wrong person's wrong legacy go down through the generation. Most important thing here, was David perfect? I mean, if David lived a perfect life, we don't have any hope to pass down the good blessing to our children because we're not perfect, right? I mean, if we are really perfect, if we please God, if we please God, if God pleases us, then everybody around you, they'll be blessed. My sister was attending church with me when we were so young, but she haven't gone to church for like 15 years. I feel very sorry, right? One day I was praying for her. Like, I'm keep contacting, your family member who don't go to church, how hard it is to talk to them to go to church. One day I'm praying for her, I thought like this. Maybe when she go to God, God will tell her, you go heaven. Because your brother, Justin, he had to do ministry, but that his energy and time could be separated for supporting for parents, but you took that burden. You took the parents. You took care of the parents. So Justin could devote himself for ministry. Now that's a good credit. You go heaven. I sometimes even thought like this. Maybe my grandfather, that he never believed Jesus. Your grandson Justin, become my servant. Then you made him, you supported him go to the God's servant. Maybe your good influence will pass down to everybody, right? I worry about actually my nephew and niece. I call my sister, it's your decision. You don't go to church, but you attend the church. You knew God, but your decision you not to go. What about your children? You should have brought them to the church. They don't know God because you don't take him. So I'm worrying about. I argued with my sister. One day I read the Genesis. Lot, Abraham's nephew, was saved because God loved Abraham. Okay, my nephew and niece can be saved too if I please God like Abraham pleased God. Right? I mean, what you have done can give a big influence. That's what Bible says. And David could give a very good influence throughout the generation, but he was not perfect. The Bible said, nevertheless, for David's sake, Lord as God give him a lamp in Jerusalem, because David did what was right in the eyes of the Lord all the days of his life, but except in the matter of Uriah the Hittite. I mean, David is like us. He made a big mistake, right? But though he made a big mistake, did any of his descendants receive the negative legacy? Actually, his first three sons, Amnon, Absalom, Ahithophel, that they had to bear this David's burden with the father. But after them, fourth son Solomon only received the blessing. All the kings of the southern Judah received the blessing. Was there any dark influence David passed on the human history? Even we are receiving David's blessing, right? The Matthew chapter 1 and 1. This is the word of Jesus Christ, descendant of Abraham and David. We all receive David's blessing. It's like all the bad things in David's life, David was holding it, and he took all of them by himself, and he only gave the good blessing. Why? Because God let him carry consequence and burden he had to carry. That was the reason David's life was tough. David's life was not like Solomon's life. You know that, right? He had a lot of difficulties and hardship. What was the reason for all the hardship? Maybe all the sins of his ancestors. And the sin that he committed, God gave David opportunity. You finish them in your generation. You can bear it. You can carry it on by yourself. And actually, God helped David a lot to lessen that burden. But at the end of David's life, he disconnected. All the curse was coming down through his generation and through his ancestors and what he did. So at the end of his life, all his descendants, 1,000 generations received the blessing. Which life do you want to live? You wanted to live like a Solomon, receiving all the blessing in the world, who failed to pass down that blessing? Or whatever your ancestor has done, whatever you have done, God bless you so much, God let you bear that burden, and God let you disconnect all this curse, so you become a person who can pass on only blessing to your children and descendants, 1,000 generations. Is that the life you want? All the sufferings in your life, if you are bearing this suffering, all the struggles, your inner struggle, your emotional struggle, all the brokenness in your life, what you're bearing, if you are bearing it with God, you are healing. All the things in your family line, all the things what ancestors done, all the things, and you are the one who blocked them there, who can give a protection to your children. I think that's a blessing. That's the life we want. We don't just want to live happily with the joy in our life. I mean, every decision we make it, if we go through God. I'm not saying everything will go well and then you'll be happy. No. But even the difficulties you go through in making right decision, in your patience and perseverance and love, God will use those suffering to disconnect, to stop all the curse, and through you, all the people in the world will be blessed, and you will be the source of blessing. Let's pray.